Your book, your story, your journey. Rightcoach.ie.
I'd like to invite Aldo to say a few words. Thanks, Aldo.
I'd like to thank Carl and Steve for having me along here today just to have a chat about a specific shamanic perspective on mental health issues, disconnection, addiction, and a few other areas. I got a lot of words wrote out here. We'll get through it in the allocated few minutes. We're just going to do an eye closing exercise again. We're just going to follow suit on what Jordan did. And I just want you to close your eyes for a moment, folks. And we're just going to look within ourselves. And I'm going to use three things just to connect with the inner self. Okay? And the subject matter of what I'm going to talk about this evening is disconnection. Okay? So, disconnection number one is disconnection from our communities, our tribe, if you want to call it a tribe, disconnection from community. The second area that we're going to talk about is disconnection from our natural environment, our natural world that surrounds us, as a really important medicine for our well-being. And the third that we're going to talk about is the disconnection from oneself. What set of circumstances in our life, call it trauma or call it whatever word we want to use, is these experiences of the past. How has that initiated, I guess, a disconnection from ourselves, as feeling of fragmentation? So just for a moment, guys, with your eyes closed, just those three elements: disconnection from oneself, disconnection from our environments, and disconnection from our community, which is our tribe in general. So just be aware of that and go inside and connect with what that may be. Okay, and you can open your eyes. It's just that connection. Just go in and tap into that energy and just that connection of those three subjects. My name is Aldo Jordan. I am the founder of the Irish School of Shamanic Studies. We founded it about 10 years ago. We're based in Castlebar, and our primary work is practitioner training or workshops based on an ancient practice known as shamanism. And people hear the word shaman, they'll think of, far from Mongolia or far from South America, but we have it right here in our environments here through our ancient Irish spirituality and our shamanic connections. So let's just look at the three subject matters we're talking about today. Through my own experience of addiction and mental health issues attached to addiction down through the years, it's the very thing that brought me into shamanism. It was to say that I was fragmented as a person. I went through various traumas as a young fella and as a child, which led me into addiction, because we have a very clear understanding of addiction, particularly through shamanism and other areas, that all addiction begins, the origins of addiction is trauma, and addiction is a byproduct of various different events in the past. And that can be a very wide subject to talk about. In fact, these three subjects I'm talking about here, I could stand here all day long and talk about them. So I'll try and get them into the few minutes. Disconnection from oneself, we're just going to talk about that for a moment. Time and time again over years, when working with these people that have presented with traumas, there's a word that I can use, and it's disconnect or disconnection. It seems that individuals have this disconnect from oneself. As Carl Jung would explain, a loss of self. And what this means is that when individuals go through these traumatic events in their lives, there is something that becomes dislodged from ourselves. In shamanic work, we call it soul loss. What it means is when somebody is frightened or put through very negative experiences or traumas, that an element of their very essence, an element of their soul, actually leaves their physical self. Something called soul loss, soul fragmentation, and we can look at it in different ways. It can be partial loss of the soul. It can be a loss of your essential energy essence. A partial loss of consciousness actually leaves the body. And it's the work of the shamanic healer to search for those lost portions through these ancient shamanic rituals, find these lost elements and to integrate them back into that person, known as soul loss. So, time and time again, and a very simple philosophy in shamanism, that all mental health issues are relative to soul loss and loss of self. And as I said, Carl.J, through his teachings, which is very much a shamanic foundation, is the loss of self. There is a loss. What's the symptoms of it? Lack of vitality, direction, mission, and just simply that spark that we once had, that these events can knock us off the road. My role and what I teach through the Shamanic School is how can we find these lost portions and how can we integrate them back in and reinstill them back in and to bring back a level of wholeness. That's the loss of self. Another area that we look at for disconnection, particularly in our shamanic work, is the lack of community. There's an old Irish word called metal. Does anybody know what metal means?
Togetherness.
Togetherness, metal, gathering. And the metal particularly is relative to people coming together and helping each other out in community. As we drive further and further through time, we find that this sense of community is not that prevalent anymore as it used to be. We find people become more and more isolated or more insular going through their lives, where there may not be that sense of community or that spirit of community where you can reach out to somebody. And one time there was always people pretty close by that were there and available for people to reach out and say, I need a little bit of help there. Whether it's when the thrasher comes around, the old agricultural stuff, or whether it's to do with personal issues, to reach out. And we find more and more in the modern world that there isn't that sense of community anymore. That's partially to do with technology, by the way. The Shamanic would tell the stories. People would listen to what the Shamanic. The Shamanics, the storytellers of Ireland, are wisdom keepers. They pass on the wisdom down through the generations. In the event of technology, the Shamanic all but died out, so that that connection wasn't there. Isn't there anymore. Well, not completely not there, but most of it's not there anymore. And the rites of passage that we once practiced in this country and worldwide, where there is elders there that will guide you through these gateways, like birth and death, or coming of age, or hand fastings, or whatever the case may be, that the rites of passage are not there anymore. People now more and more look to technology for advice. So the rites of passage are greatly not there anymore. So what we find, again, that's another element of disconnect, where there's a lack of connection with community. And more the community is actually on the device, looking for advice from a stranger maybe, or for some idol, whoever it may be, to try and give some kind of direction. So that's the second disconnect. It's the disconnection from community, which can lead to feelings of vulnerability, isolation, etc., etc. And the third is very shamanic based as well. The third disconnect is the disconnect from our natural environment. So this is, a very strong shamanic philosophy to say that. So somebody might say, Colin, you need to get into nature. Okay? So what would that mean? You need to get out into nature. You need to connect with the natural world. The reality is that we actually are. We are the natural world. We are an innate and really important part of the natural world. Like a big wheel with many cogs on it. We are one of those cogs. The ancients knew this very well. They communed with the natural world. When we say natural world, what we mean in shamanism is that everything is of spirit. Everything is of spirit. The mountains, the lakes, the rivers, the trees, the flowers are all of spirit, just as we are. And the ancient people, and when I say ancient, I'm not going back too long ago. If you go back a couple of generations, back to my dad's time, for example, they had a very strong relationship with the natural world. And that helps us to not just survive, it helps us to thrive. But in the modern world, we've disconnected from the natural world, and more we can we are nature spirits, and the tree across the road is a nature spirit. There's equilibrium, and we commune, we connect, we communicate. It might sound crazy if you say, go over there now and have a chat with that tree for yourself, you know, but it's not that crazy. The tree is of spirit as you are of spirit. In the modern world, we've definitely disconnected from the natural world. The medicine of Mother Earth is the most powerful medicine for humans. It is the most powerful medicine of all. But what have we done? I'm a culprit. We wear rubber sole shoes. We disconnect from the energy of the earth. The connection with the earth is very, very important. The pulsation traveling through our body is the most powerful medicine of all. 7.83 hertz is the scientific measurement of the natural pulsation of the earth. That is the most powerful medicine of all. And finally, I wrote a lot of notes, but I didn't read any of it. It's probably to keep me in check because I just keep talking. It just keeps me. All the above in our shamanic work creates lack of direction, lack of vitality, lack of mission, lack of purpose. And more people in these modern times, with more and more people in these modern times, it's so important that we bring the old wisdom back and instill it into the modern world to allow us to be strong and vital. And Carl talked about bags. It's interesting, as we talk about bags, it's like the big heavy bags, we carry them around. Each stone in those bags represents a trauma, a heaviness. A lot of people out there just carrying bags around. That makes us weary. That brings us down. It brings in depression. It brings in anxiety. You know, and how about we begin to take the rocks slowly and gradually and gently out of those bags so that our life can be free and our life can be have a good direction. And I could keep on talking, but I'm not going to. Thanks very much, guys.